evening. I'm Sydney Salazzo, Manager of North America Channels at Rockwell Automation. And here with me today, I have some special guests. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen. Our Process Solutions Users Group just wrapped up. And what we're going to be talking about today is our Plant PAX system design and deployment. There was a session at PSUG, as we affectionately refer to it, called Ask the Expert. And with me today are two of the experts that hosted that session, where you were able to get questions from the attendees and learn a little bit more about tips and tricks for this Plant PAX. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. And Dave, maybe start with you. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure, I'm Dave Rapini. I'm the Plant PAX business manager. My role is to really focus upon next generation, where we're going with Plant PAX and what we're building next in the next few years.
Hi, and I'm John Steckler. I work for Archer Daniels Midland Company. I'm Process Automation Manager. I am a Rockwell end user and Plant PAX user.
So Plant PAX, system design and deployment. What are some challenges that customers face when deploying a Plant PAX system or making considerations for deploying a system?
I think the biggest challenge has been that the customers don't know why they should be using Plant PAX. They don't understand the value in using Plant PAX. So that's a challenge for us to try to get that information out. And for me as an end user, I certainly know that the answer to that because I like to standardize our systems in our plants.
Yeah, so standardization is a big thing, I think.
Yeah.
So you know, one of the things we offer in the library, in addition to just the base library, we have control strategies. And you know, we always talk about, and you probably have heard us talk about this, and you probably experienced it, you know, improved time to market, faster delivery, because you're using a standardized library. But really the value is more like what you were talking about, and about the standardization of the code itself, right? So we have control strategies that we deliver, and those control strategies, you know, really provide a customer with a core base that lets them drive consistency throughout the facility. So the next time that you go to deploy something, you know, that standard code is there, so maintenance guys know what they're looking at. It always looks the same, no matter who delivers that system. You know, that standardization is big.
And Dave, definitely that's true. Our biggest effort is to modernize, and to modernize, for us to do it in an accelerated way, we really have to standardize. And Rockwell's Plant PAX gives us that platform from the beginning by allowing us to standardize the way we develop our code, and then deploy that in a very accelerated manner.
So standardization, reusability, tools, libraries of code. What did you hear from the attendees this week? What was trending and what topics are on top of mind for them?
So a few of them. So you know, we heard a lot of questions around PanelView Plus, which is unique for a process environment, right? So we're a process solution user group, and we're asking experts on process. I think that's because, you know, our message, we have this message around plant-wide integration, a common infrastructure from the lowly skid to the top-level systems. And the skids tend to show up a lot of times with a electronic operator interface, right? A PanelView Plus on them. And when they do that, they want that to integrate very seamlessly and cleanly to the top end. So we got a lot of questions this year at PSUG around that. I was surprised at how many PanelView questions we had around how that integrates up to the rest of the system and where they're experiencing that. How about you, John?
Yeah, and I think it's back to the why. It's trying to understand the not necessarily that the Plant PAX system is the end, but it's the beginning of a journey to figure out where we're going to go in the future. And you know, we've talked about specific standards, whether they're ISA standards or just plant-specific standards. And again, this is the direction that we have to go, because we have to position ourselves for wherever we're going to be in the future. And we don't know where that is, but we certainly need a platform that allows us to grow into that, wherever that happens to lead us.
And there was a lot of dialogue around ISA 101. Right? So that standardization on displays, making sure operators are efficiently deployed, or understand how to troubleshoot systems quickly with maintenance. So we had a lot of questions around ISA 101. You guys are ISA 101 kind of look and feel to your architectures?
We've been down that ISA 101 path. We've also worked heavily on alarm management, which is ISA 18.2. Both of those really play really well together. So I feel like for us as a company, we really don't want to do one without the other. So, I mean, and again, in our modernization effort, this is where we determined that we're going to get greater value by not only replicating the code that was there, but actually rewriting the code. And by rewriting the code, we can then take advantage of those standards that are in place already for us.
You know what really surprised me? So I did get surprised at Ask the Experts this year a little bit. Yeah. And it was really about the complexity of the user questions that they were asking me, right? So I've done this for the last 3 years here at PSUG, and I'm seeing the maturity of the questions coming out, which really tells me that, years ago, the questions we'd get were much more simplistic. It was,
getting started.
and they were easy to field. It was not a problem, right? Getting their first pass at it. But now the questions we're getting on that panel, and this is your second year for the panel?
This is my second year, yes.
Yeah, so the questions we're getting on that panel are much more challenging. I'm challenged to get the right staff in there because the broadness of the questions and the depth that they're trying to get us to go to is great dialogues. But it really shows they're getting mature in that process space, and our market is really starting to take off there, I think.
So we've been at this for a few years now. We've had Plant PX in the market for several years. What can you offer as any best practices for either developing or designing, deploying, or maintaining a Plant PX system?
Yeah, so I push really hard for people to start off with this process system estimator. So we have this, and that came up a lot in the dialogue today at Ask the Expert. So process system estimator gives them the ability to size the system, scale the system, understand before they go to deploy the system, before they go to create their first line of code, to understand how the loading is on the servers, how much loading they have on network, where their controllers are sitting, do they have enough control bandwidth? Of all the mistakes, we have an extremely flexible system here. Of all the mistakes that customers make, it's because they didn't do that upfront work to make sure they built the right system and had the right hardware in line to make that happen.
And we have a tool that makes it easy to do that.
Yeah, so Process System Estimator, it's a free tool. You can just go download it right away, and I recommend everybody use that before they get started.
What about you, John?
Yeah, so when we go into the implementation side, or even after the design side of it, the tools that are available with Plant PAX really allow us to accelerate that standardization that I keep bringing up. Application Code Manager, for example, allows us to take standardized documentation that we're producing and then actually develop the code very quickly with that tool. And just that tool by itself saves a tremendous amount of time, and not only rewriting the code, but actually using it in a repeatable manner from plant to plant that we go through.
And that helps with your maintenance team probably getting used to knowing how to see it and how to troubleshoot it because it's consistent from plant to plant to plant.
Absolutely. It creates an additional training challenge for us, but the training challenge is actually easier because now we have a standard approach, and that standard creates a standard training as well, and it's much easier to deploy that across multiple locations.
What else, Dave?
And we work hard on that standardization ways to make that simpler, right? So one of the big topics was Alarm Builder this week in Ask the Expert, and we really talked about a way that tool can standardize how the alarm system gets deployed. It does it in bulk, so it makes it much easier to do 10,000 alarms in your architecture, and making sure that the severities are where you want them for all the drives, and that all the infrastructure is there for the alarming. They're grouped properly with the FactoryTalk Alarm Event Group, and all that stuff is just easier to do with that bulk code generation tool.
So yeah, you take Application Code Manager, you take Alarm Builder, and then the online configuration tool. Those three things are the key to everything that we do, is basically taking advantage of those tools and reuse them and reuse them all the time.
Yeah, online configuration tool is a big one.
That's
too,
a big
right? So it's basically a spreadsheet that lets you modify all your tag database in one big switch, so you can drive consistency through the tag database. So another area I really want to touch on before we go is the audit tool. So when a system integrator walks away from a facility, it's great to have a baseline understanding of where that system is and how it's loaded. So we have this audit tool that you can run. It's another free download that you can get off of the websites. And that audit tool will go out and inspect the data servers, the controllers, the HMI servers. Are they loaded properly where you're at in the scale of loading? And weighs that against the system estimation tools that we provide from the PSE, so against the guardrails that we have around how big that system can be and where it performs best. So that gives a system integrator a great view into his system to know it's not a pass-fail kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more of a, this shows you where you've stretched the system, and you can go to look at areas if you need to do some improvements in performance. And that's a great place to start, but main reason I make system integrators do that, and I recommend that they do that out of the gate, is because inevitably in a year, they're going to get a call.
Something different.
Something's not behaving the way it was when I left the facility. And the great thing about having that baseline thing, you can walk into the facility, run the tool again, do that audit, take a look, compare, and you can see where somebody's stretched the system. You can see where some of that stuff's been modified. So
yeah, another point to that, Dave, is that our systems aren't static, so there's always changes happening. So if, for example, we implemented Plant PAX and the next phase of that project might have been smart MCCs. Well, when we do that, all of a sudden the system has changed, and we see performance issues. Well, our first tool is to try to use that verification tool to see what has changed and how we actually now stretch the system beyond what it was supposed to be. So it's critical to be able to do that because it certainly helps Rockwell help us to make our system perform better.
Faster to troubleshoot and everything as well.
Absolutely.
Well, certainly I have the experts with me here today. I want to thank you guys for joining. Thank you for providing insight on the Plant PAX system design and deployment tool. And we look forward to seeing you on the next few days on the show floor.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sydney.